We are living in eventful days. Momentous events are swirling all around us, yet most Americans seem utterly oblivious to them. The Commandant of the United States Marine Corps said that the United States Marines are at 36% combat strength in the Pacific, unprepared to fight against the Chinese. The Chinese president for life, Xi Jinping, stood on the front steps of the Kremlin with Vladimir Putin, and he told him that change was upon the world, that the old order was giving way and a new one was rising. Is that new order to be the order of slave labor camps, restrictions on the freedom of speech, religion, liberty, conscience? These aren't free societies, China and Russia. Russia is a war criminal society that rapes, that murders, and that tries to take by aggression land that does not belong to them, but to a free democracy that wishes not to be ruled over by a tyrant. The Chinese state harvests the organs of its political prisoners and sells them on a lucrative black market. Across the world, great events are unfolding. There's great conflict taking place. Israel, the most stable democracy for 60 years in the Middle East, teeters at the edge of civil war as an Israeli prime minister has embraced extremism in an attempt to roll back the checks and balances that guarantee democracy. We see reactions in France, violence, riots, to an economic announcement by decree from a French president. And standing in the background is Marine Le Pen, the fascist, who would seek to take France out of the European Union and out of NATO, and who would be a stalwart ally for the New World Order envisioned by Xi Jinping and Vladimir Putin. Is that what we want? During the days ahead, America will be tested. Of that, there is no doubt. These are unsettled hours before a historic event on Tuesday. The die has come to pass finally. Donald Trump, after provoking law enforcement with his reckless conduct for more than 50 years, has finally been charged with the crime. 34 counts, apparently. When those counts are unsealed, they'll be evaluated in the court of public opinion, but that's not how justice is dispensed in America. It's not dispensed by pundits on cable news. Donald Trump will be innocent until and unless he is proven guilty by a jury of his peers. Now, what we know about Donald Trump is this, is that he's breaking the American society. He's breaking the American system. He hasn't been able to do it alone. He's had tremendous help. And the people who have helped him are the elected members of the Republican Party, a small political faction against the whole of the American population of 330 million people. Those are the people who have followed Donald Trump to the edge of an abyss where they seek through their actions to fundamentally change and alter the American way of life. And this is what must be opposed, and it must be faced, and it must be faced directly at long last. When Donald Trump lost an election, he said, no, I'm not leaving because I want to be in charge. And nobody around Donald Trump looked at him in the eye and said, you lost. Nobody explained to him at the most basic level how it is that America functions. No one told him the story of the greatness of George Washington, born in the tremendous humility of walking away from power to return home as a citizen and to pass power to John Adams, who, when he lost an election in a tie, walked out of the White House. he didn't contest Thomas Jefferson's ascendancy. What Donald Trump did was break something fundamental in American society and separated the two political parties across a divide that cannot be healed. Because the Republican MAGA Party stands now for the proposition Donald Trump rules America or else. And that's not democracy. Duty and patriotism and faithfulness to the Constitution of the United States demand that that be opposed. And what that means is that across this land, millions of people who haven't voted, haven't been involved, need to get engaged and need to become educated about the majesty of this place and the opportunities it affords and what we would be throwing away for our children and our grandchildren. Donald Trump demolished the efficacy of elections in this country. Millions and millions and millions of people no longer believe the elections are free or fair. There's no evidence for this. The only evidence explaining why people believe that are the evidence of the concrete lies told by Fox News and all of the agents of the mayhem and the craziness that Donald Trump has unleashed in America that have made it impossible for millions of good people to know what's real, what's true, what's up, what's down, what's left, what's right. They float in a blackness of zero gravity where the truth is shut out for profit of billions of dollars for wretched people like the Murdoch family. It's not just so elections that Donald Trump and his allies have targeted. Now that he's been charged with a crime, the entire MAGA Republican Party has set its sights on the American judicial system. That there would be a criminal prosecution of Donald Trump accused of breaking the law is suddenly a reason to tear down the American justice system. The judge is being threatened. The prosecutors are being threatened. Violence is being threatened. Across the internet, the racist screeds are crying out for attention from the Proud Boys, from the 3%ers, from the neo-Nazis, and every extremist group that you could think of. So we stand at a dangerous hour. What will happen on Tuesday? Will New York police officers turn their backs on Trump, or will they line up in a cordon and salute him as he marches into the courthouse? Nobody knows. Will there be violence? Is someone preparing for that violent act right now? Who knows? There's a lot of unstable and a lot of crazy people, and they've certainly had no shortage of incitement. These are very dangerous days in America. Days of instability in our system. And all around the world, the countries that menace freedom and liberty, that seek to raise up a new order built on a vision that has nothing to do with human rights or dignity. The American society is deeply imperfect, but it is more perfect than the Russian or Chinese versions by a long shot. All of the democracies in the world share a common thread, a common value, and it is a transcendent belief in the power of the human being, the dignity of each and every one of us, the idea that all of us have rights that are granted by no person, by no king, no general, no party. They are essential to the makeup of a human being. The American tradition in its finest calls for compassion and tolerance and fights for freedom in liberty, in the idea of freedom, that you can be anything and do anything that you set out to be or to accomplish if you work hard enough. This is what needs defending in this country. There's a lot of people at the top who've taken a lot more than they deserve from good people all over the country who find it harder and harder to get by. And those people have been conned and lied to by a lot of people in America not named Trump. Donald Trump has exploited it. Donald Trump is a perfect demagogue, the greatest con man America has ever produced. It's important not to have judgment for people who get swept up in the falsehoods and the lies and are disoriented and just want someone to blame for what they perceive to be great unfairness in their lives. A cult of victimology, where everything can be washed away, where everything can be made to be someone else's problem, is very alluring. That's what Trump is selling. It's a lazy, dangerous ideology that gives away sovereignty, that gives away independence, that surrenders common sense and judgment to another person to tell you what's true, what's real. And that person, Donald Trump, and his lies have come into direct conflict with the most important ideas and values of the United States of America. Donald Trump is the internal threat that Lincoln prophesied and warned about. Donald Trump is a domestic enemy of the United States Constitution. He has called for violence. He has lied tens of thousands of times. He is a dangerous, despotic, terrible person who sits atop the worst political cause in America since the Confederacy, and it must be opposed fiercely.